So let me first introduce myself. My name is Rodney Wormsbecher. I'm 36 years old from the Netherlands. And I work as a senior software developer and architect for Ordina, mainly in governmental organizations. So today we have an agenda. And what we are actually going to do, we're going to publish a package to NPM. We are going to consume it. We are going to do some build automation. And we use Docker for Azure documentation. So let me first ask you, who has ever published an NPM package? That's not too many. That's cool. Fun. So I don't really like theory too much, so I will code a lot. So let's get started. This will be the architectural part of what we are going to do. On the left side, we have the dev environment, which I already set up because of time constraints. Then we are going to publish a package and consume it. In the meantime, we're going to use GitHub Actions to actually build the package, make an NPM publish, and later also Dockerize it and send it into Azure. So let's first actually have a look at the application. So I created this very easy application with only a button, made a Storybook as a UI library. And what we actually can do, we can use it as documentation, and we can say like, hello, city.js Berlin. So we can reuse these components, and later on we also see how we are going to do that. Oh. So publishing. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to set up NPM so that we can actually publish. And to do that, we actually need to have a built version of our application. So what we could do, we could run npm run build, then we get like the minimized files. However, if you publish, it will do that automatically, which I will show you in a second. Next up, if it works, you will get a dist folder with some TypeScript, if you're using TypeScript or JS, that actually has the package. And then we have to publish it with an npm login. And there's a funny thing, we have like two ways of logging in. The first one is via UI, the other one is via the CLI. And the CLI was supported until version 16, and I believe in version 18 of Node, they actually went to the UI version. So let's actually get started. So this is the application, and the first thing that I'm going to do is get a new tab. All right, then I'll say npm login. So press the key to open the browser. And I will get a one-time password. So I do have to use my phone for that, because that's security. So let's get it. And then you'll see when you're doing a presentation, you have no internet on your phone. Great. OK, there it is. So my only password that I will share with you is 12340759. If we log in, OK, login is successful, and we can go back to our IDE. So right now, it's actually set up, and I am logged in. Once I want to publish it, I can run an npm publish. And just to show that the dist folder is being regenerated, I will throw away my dist folder. Yes, we want to throw it away. Okay, I will throw away the dist folder. Yes. Delete permanently. And we'll run npm publish. So what it's going to do, it's going to run some script that actually natively comes with Node, and it's called tarball, and then it will actually publish the package there. I do get a bad request, and that is probably because I did not change my package name. So if I go into here, I have to change this to city.js save. And I'll try again. So I'll publish it again. Why? That's not allowed. OK. Berlin. I'll copy this for later. So now it's going to work, because I already did this repo before. And the problem is, if it's within 24 hours that you deleted it, you can't republish it again. And I have to save it. Okay. Great. So it worked after a few tries. So if we go to npm and I go into my packages, you can now see that we have Rodney Storybook Presentation CityJS Berlin. And if we go into it, you can actually see that we have a link to install it via npm. And it's version 0.1.0. So please remind me later, I always forget this. I have to update the version number. So if I do it wrong, please remind me. Thank you. So let's get started. We want to consume the application. So we are going to use a different application. I already set this up using React. This is with the older version. So this I will remove. OK. So it cannot find it, so we actually have to install it. And once it is installed, I'll actually run the application, and you can see that both of my buttons are working. So if we use npm start, we will get out. Great. So we have our reusable package working. So once we have that part done, we actually have to start thinking about how we can do this via CI/CD. So, oh, sorry, I have to go a little bit further. Who has used CI/CD before? Who used GitHub for that? Who used DevOps for that? OK, so cool. We're going to use GitHub, so that's a little bit more people. If we want to do that, we need to do actually three things. We first need to get a token to actually identify that this is our package. Next, we need to store the token within the Git. And we will need to have a GitHub action that can publish our package onto npm. So the first thing we have to do is to go to npmjs.com. We get an access token. We can now use granular tokens, so we can say only for one package. And we actually fill in the details, like the expiry date, etc. Once that is working, you will get a token. And you have to save this token immediately, because you can only see it once. If you lose it, you have to create a new one. So let's actually get this set up. We go into npm. We say we want to have an access token. We create a new granular token. We need to fill in a password. OK. And then we can give it a name. So what name should we give it? Sorry? Package. OK. A package token then. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to think what it is. We want to give permissions, and we want to have read and write. And nowadays, we can say we only want to give it to one package instead of everything in our repository. So I called it CityJS Berlin. And I will generate a token. So I have to copy this one, and this actually will identify us from my pipeline to npm.js. So if we go to Notepad, yeah, I got that. So I'll save it here, and we'll use it in a moment. Next up, we will have to go into our GitHub repository. We have to go to settings, and we have to add a new secret. So a secret is basically a value that we want to use in your pipeline, but nobody can see it, right? That's safer. Otherwise, we might just give our access token away. So I will create a new secret called npm publish token. And I will also create a YAML file, which I will explain in a second. So let's first go to GitHub. Here. This is our package settings. Go to secrets and variables, actions, create new repository secret. And you can see that it does this quite often. So if you do it often, it remembers like all the fields that you used before, which is pretty awesome. And we'll add the secret. So now that the secret in here, we will go into a different branch. And for some reason, my taskbar is covering my IDE. Why? Okay. So we will go to number 5, which is setting up CI/CD. My screen is still working. I don't know what happened. All right. Force checkout. Just got one file. So what we have to do here is we have to say it was cityjs-berlin. That was our package. And I'll first bump it. I think it might be not touching it. OK, cool. So I will bump this one so actually the build can start, and then I'll explain how the pipeline works. Otherwise, we might have some time issues. Great. Yeah. Awesome. Version number. I was on 1.2, so saved. Anyways, let's see what the action is running. So we go into actions, and bump is running. So while it's running, I will actually explain the pipeline. So if we go into GitHub, GitHub, YAML, and is this readable on the back, or do I need to zoom in a little bit? Zoom in a little bit? OK, sure. Awesome. So basically what we're doing, we're setting up a pipeline, and we do it on push and on pull requests to these 2 branches. Then I want to run on Ubuntu. I use a checkout for my repository. I say I want to use Node version 18, and I want to force install all my packages. And that is because sometimes you have like legacy dependencies. You want to update them. If that fails, OK, that's a problem, but then at least you have to fix it. I run npm test, I do coverage, and last but not least, I publish it via npm with the token. So if everything goes correctly, then bump should be finished. Shame on you. OK, no, it failed. Why did it fail? So I probably did not use the right version for this one. Let me go into the packages real quick and go into this one. Get the name done. Oh. Get the name. I'm missing an N. So I have to zoom out one part, go to package. I think I made a mistake in the name here. And just to bump it, I'll put it on major version 2. So we will save it. And then we'll call it bump. And I'll push it again. So I'll first go to through the slides a little bit, and then I'll come back. Otherwise, we really run out of time. So if everything goes correctly, we have an action that actually runs. It completes. And on the bottom, we have this artifact, which is our coverage report. From there, we can actually see our unit tests. And if it goes wrong, in my package.json, I set a coverage threshold. So everything should at least be 80%. If not, it will error out from my pipeline. And that's actually useful because a lot of developers, they rely on Husky. And what does every developer do that relies on Husky? Ooh, I need to release today. I don't have time. Dash, dash, no verify. Oh, screwed. We're screwed, guys. So that's actually why I try to do it within my package.json. So let's see whether the bump actually worked. So we go into the actions, and we have to go up to the new action. Then we have the bump. The bump is running. I think it shall pass. So I will go there in a second. So once we do that, we have to set up Docker. Who is familiar with Docker around here? Oh, nice. So I don't have to say anything about it. Awesome. Basically, Docker containerizes your application. And what it means in a very concise way is like you get a box where your application is in. And this box, you can actually put it everywhere. If you want to put it on Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, or wherever, you can just put it there, done. It's really, really convenient. So to set up Docker, we actually need to do a few things. This is how Docker works. I have to use a web server, so I'm using Nginx. I'm not going into detail for that, but it's just the entry point is index.html, and it opens my ports on my web server. Then I will actually create a Docker file, which is the instruction set to create a container, or an image actually, and I will copy over Storybook, and I will reinstall all my packages, and I make certain that nothing is left. Then I build Storybook, and I will copy it to my Nginx server file. From there, I can run it via a startup file, which is doing nothing except saying it's not a daemon, and it's using a shebang, so it's not bash. So we will set it up, but I first want to see whether my bump succeeded. Awesome, worked. So if we go here, it should now be version 2 point something. Ah, nice, 2.1.2. So that part's working. Whenever we push something, we will get a new NPM package with one requirement. You need to update your version number, and I always forget that, so do better than I do. So let's go into the Docker part. So I will go into setup Docker branch. And setup Docker branch has this Docker file, which is basically what we saw before. And from there, I will say a Docker, Docker build current directory tag test city Berlin. And why do my colleagues bother me right now, right? With Teams, you should turn it off. So this will actually create the image, and this will take some time. So we first go through the presentation part again. So once we have an image, we can basically create an infinite amount of containers based on that image. And they are idempotent, so that means that every time I run that image, it's exactly the same. Then, if we start it up in a container, we will basically run this on localhost in my case. So let me see whether Docker is done. No, it's still running on the npm install. OK, sure. So let me go through the interface then. So I'm using Docker Desktop. So once it's done, in my images part, here there will be a new image called Test City Berlin. And I touch the cable again. Still working here? OK, cool. So this is basically where my image will get. And once I run it, it will get into a container. So that's actually something that I can browse on my computer. So let's see. Did you finish? No. OK. Then we wait a little bit longer for you. It's done. So inside of Docker, we now get in our images test city Berlin with double, with an M and an N. OK, typo. If we run it, you can now have optional settings. And Docker really did a very nice part here. If you now press 0, it will get a random number. So once it's running, it's in a container. And within my container, I can visit it. Voila, we have everything we had, but now it's containerized. So the only part that's left, we have to push it into Azure. And that's going to be fun, because that's going to be CI/CD, which takes time. So the first thing that we're going to do is to go back to the slide. And we're going to use Azure Container Registry. And Azure Container Registry is exactly the same thing as Docker Hub, but it's on Azure. If you want to use the equivalent on AWS, that's possible as well. It's not really specific to Azure. So what we'll do, we set up a container registry. We also add another build pipeline that actually creates the publish to there. And we will automatically deploy it to a web application. So first thing, who has experience with Azure? Oh, that's sad. OK, then we have to go through it. No problem. So first thing we're going to do, if we go to Azure, we're going to create a new resource. And that's called a container registry. And it pops up. Then it asks me, OK, create it, create container registry. And I will put it in my own resource group. And I will enter the name, suggestions, Berlin ACR. And it can only be alphanumeric, West Europe. And this is really fun. Like they say it's standard, but standard is $40 a month. If you use basic, it's $5 a month, so put it to basic. And I will review and create the resource. So now it's actually going to create this, and we will have to do a few things, like we need to have credentials to actually log in from our pipeline. So if we go into access keys, we can get a user, our server, and a password. And from there, we actually have to put those into GitHub. For our pipeline, we have to select the operating system. I will use a date, which I will show you in a moment, for version retention. And we will use Docker, the Docker with credentials to publish it. I'll show this in code in a moment. So if I want to publish, I only want to publish when my task published to NPM is successful. So you can say, OK, if this task is done and it is successful, then execute this. This is my version retention. They should make this much easier. This is really horrible, so don't think about it. Just Google it, Stack Overflow it, whatever. Last but not least, we actually want to send it up to Docker. And we do a few things. We actually want to make use of our credentials, which we will get in a moment. We will use a Docker build for a version with a date. And we will retag that date into the latest version, because the latest version is the only thing you can keep updating automatically. Next, we will push them both to the container registry. Looks like a lot. It's not that hard. So we can go to the resource. And we have access keys. We'll have an admin user. This is our server. So we have to go into GitHub. And then go into secrets and variables, actions, new secret. And this is the server. So I will put in the server name. Add secret. Then I also have to get the username. So we go here. Username. Create. And the last one is the secret. So we copy this one. Set it up. And do the password. Done. So before I'm going any further, I will first do the whole publish process, because it takes 2 minutes. Otherwise, we will have time problems again. So we go to branch 7, publish to ACR. And then I have to update the name. And I'm afraid to do that by hand, so I will copy it, because just now we got an error from that. Here. And now I missed the N. OK. And I have to update the version number. I've remembered it this time. So let's just put it on version 6.6. I'm certain it's not used. So we will bump it. Bump. Commit. Sync. So what actually happened right now within this branch that I created, the only thing I added was this part. So that's the code I just explained. We publish it if it's successful. We get the date, and then we'll push it. So if it's correct, it should now be building on our actions. Ah, cool. So in 2 minutes, it will be done. So we can just talk really easily now. Oh, the wrong one. It is this one. So that was the passwords. If it goes correctly, we now have 2 steps. The first one is the publish to NPM. The next one is the publish to Azure. And we actually can hook up a deployment hook, which means every time there's a new package onto our container registry, it will automatically push it to a web application. So by doing that, we will actually get we will actually get the application working. So this one will take some time. I'll first create the web application. No, I can't do that yet. So if we go to the repositories, this one is empty right now. So I'll quickly go to another one that I can explain my version history retention. So if I go to my private one, and then go into repositories, and then I think my API has a version history. No, not this one, that one. So what actually happens, here you can see that I have a latest, which updates every time for my application. But, oh, crap. every time when something goes wrong, I want to be able to roll back. So that's why I have like the dates behind it. So I can roll back 1 version, 2 versions, 3 versions, as long as I remember or have documentation when I actually publish something. So by now, it should be done by building. And it's almost done with building. But at least this one should be published now. This should be version 6. Nice. So that works. And then we go to the last part. Here. Which is just being slow today. So once this one is done, we will actually hook up the latest hook, and then we're finished. I do have to wait a second. So I'll first go into the recap. Shift up. So what we actually did, we created GitHub actions to publish a package to NPM. We created the application that consumed the package. We containerized Storybook by using Docker. And GitHub Actions will actually push it to as well NPM as your container registry. Last but not least, and that's all we still have to do, it's running on a web app automatically. So now it should be done. Why? Why is it like this today? It should be done soon. So let me go back here and go into Berlin ACR. Go into the repositories. Ha! I didn't change the name, okay. But here's the latest version, and there's like the one with the date. So up here, I can say deploy to web app. And I have to give it a name. I call it Berlin 123432. That should be okay. Nice. Because it's not only me, it's like any user. It should be unique. It's on Linux, and we create it. We do have to have a service plan, which is my plan. Leasify, create. And the service plan is basically like how big do you want the server to be? Do you want it to be small or to be big? So when that is running, then we should have our application live, and then I'm going to shut up and leave you alone. It's just slow. Okay, that one is done. So last but not least, we can push the browse button, and this will take like 10 seconds because it is like a cold start. And then we should actually see our Storybook application up here. Well, we have to wait for that. It's coming. All right, so here you can see it's running on Berlin, blah, 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 blah. And it's running with our Storybook application. So every time that it now push like new changes, it will do everything automatically. And I never have to do anything, but I should not forget to update my version number. So